NXX headquarters. Jasmine Candles, a reporter from Southeast News, was investigating water pollution in Opaline village before her death. She claimed that the pollution was caused by Hess's laboratory. Unfortunately, she lost the lawsuit in the first trial due to sewage testers on-site withdrawal of confession. Afterward, in order to go to Opaline village to obtain evidence for the appeal, the mutated opaline fish, she was set up by someone on the return journey and fell off a cliff after a car accident. Jasmine Candace was actually very close to the truth, but unfortunately she couldn't see Harrison's final ending. Although her investigation was only half done, the notebook still provided us with a lot of clues. Our investigation into Harrison actually starts from this notebook, and the most crucial information inside is I remember in that notebook there are many records about the epidemic of the last century, as well as some content about the pharmaceutical production of the noxious X xenogen. Yeah, she has a strong instinct as a journalist. When she realized there was something wrong with Opaline River Laboratory, she searched for a lot of relevant information. However, all of this information is still in the hypothesis phase. This alone is not enough to prove that Harrison is suspicious. Indeed, I remember Jasmine's notebook contains more important information. Our investigation into Harrison actually starts from this notebook, and the most crucial information inside is I remember what raised our suspicion the most in that notebook was that two pages had been torn out. Yes, the NSB has identified that the two pages are lists of Harrison's employees who died abnormally. Even before the identification result comes out, someone tearing out the pages itself makes us feel that there is something fishy about the case. Obviously, someone has been secretly guiding our investigation since then. Just as Vince said, some crucial information had often appeared during the Harrison investigation. However, you still don't know who are behind the scenes or what they're after. I have to say, the clues provided by that mysterious person are quite useful. Indeed, these two lists make us even more certain that Harrison had already released the illegal drug on the market. Also, it allows us to trace back to the specific product line that is causing the problem. As Artem said, Jasmine's investigation results help you learn more about Harrison's case. The tragic murder case was filed after the trial. Fortunately, you didn't let the clues she brought down go to waste. And to its headquarters. Hugh Moose, a child brought back and adopted by Jasmine Candace from Opaline village. He, who was just 10 years old, had intelligence far beyond his peers. He was already a computer prodigy. Unlike common kids who enjoy a carefree life, he was drawn into the illegal drug case at such a young age and endured a period of desperation with no one to turn for help. After he finally encountered Jasmine Kenders, who treated him kindly, she tragically passed away due to an accident. It's heartbreaking how he's been through all those things at such a young age. Don't worry, I just contacted his new parents a while back. They said his emotional state has been pretty good lately. Is his body giving him any problem? Not at all. I heard that he's gotten a lot taller lately. That's great news. Yes, I remember when we first met, he was a 10-year-old child, but he seemed to be only 7 or 8 years old in height. After all, according to his medical report, the confinement in Opaline River Laboratory did have a significant impact on his body. The experience at Opaline River Laboratory made Hui grow much slower than other children because, according to the NSB's medical report, Hui's body contains N2X. Later on, We also saw Hui's name in lower layers experiment notes. The Opaline River Laboratory probably saw Hui as a subject and tested drugs on him illegally. Yes, according to our subsequent investigations, the NXX drugs do have growth inhibiting side effects. To put it to put it the other way, Hui's physical condition at that time is also an important evidence to prove Hassan's crimes. Just as Mary said, the traces of Opaline River Laboratory were all wiped out in a river in a fire, and the official investigation into Harrison also found nothing unusual. Hui's medical report was undoubtedly more convincing than his testimony. Luckily, all of Harrison's problems have been resolved. I hope they won't affect Hui again. Hui has gone to the capital with his new parents to start a new life. And the clues he provided have, for a long time afterward, guided you closer and closer to the truth. And to X headquarters. Although in some previous cases you had already contacted the victims of the Harrison effervescent packets, but this lab, which Harrison set up in Opaline Village, seems to be the first step to getting to the truth. Unfortunately, before you could conduct a more systematic investigation, everything in the laboratory was burned to ashes. That fire burned down the entire laboratory to ashes, leaving no useful information behind. Someone must have activated the self-destruct device to have the lab completely destroyed. Tyson Jr. was still hoping that the lab would develop a life-saving medicine for him. It is obvious the self-destruct device was not activated under his orders. There must be clues within the Harrison laboratory that certain people or forces would keep hidden forever. The laboratory has been burned, which not only proves that Harrison is indeed illegally developing NXX, but also prevents you from uncovering more truths through it. However, compared to these clues lost in the fire, the most dreadful thing to you is that you subconsciously look at Luke, remembering that he was there when the fire broke out. Your heart still trembles. Sensing your gaze, Luke smiles and shakes his head, giving you a comforting look. It's just a shame that I couldn't bring out that bottle of sample. Given the scale of the fire, it was already quite difficult for you to escape safely. That's right, safety always comes first in our investigation team. We do not encourage anyone to take risks. Marius speaks with his eyes sadly sweeping over Vin and Artem. Marius, if I were you, I would not bring up this topic that could involve myself as well. When it comes to taking risks, no one here is an exception. The subject we're investigating is becoming increasingly dangerous. Everyone should be more careful from now on. Yep, you must not slack off on the self-defense training I have designed for you. Normally, I do not endanger myself in an environment that requires self-defense. However, I will still complete the necessary training. Yes, it does work when necessary. Maris, if I remember correctly, you still owe me some training data. I know, I'll practice when I have time. Maris pouts his lips. You can tell what is going on in his heart. How did I really get myself involved in this? Then it's a deal. From now on, our first principle is to ensure safety. After this small interlude, the conversation returns to the main topic. Although the laboratory was burned down, fortunately, Lawler and Hugh's testimonies can prove that there was a problem here. Yes, at least in exposing Harrison's illegal pharmaceutical production and putting them on the market. The investigations conducted around Opaline River Laboratory are all very crucial. As for who activated the self-destruct device in the Harrison's laboratory, you believe that as long as you continue the investigation, the truth will be revealed eventually. NXX headquarters. Law Lair was a researcher at the Opaline River Laboratory before the fire. Tyson Turner saw his talent and poisoned his sister Laura Lair, forcing him to develop the NXX drug for him. Law Lair has followed Tyson Turner on board the Pluto multiple times to purchase NXX ingredients. Speaking of Law Lair, we had no idea how to get on the Pluto to find him. Unexpectedly, there's a master among us who keeps a low profile. Following Luke's words, you can't help but turn your eyes toward Vin. The Pluto that Law Lair went to was a top-tier cruise ship owned by the nobles of Swaraj. Only guests with invitations were allowed entry. If it weren't for Vin's identity, you wouldn't have had the chance to board the cruise ship carrying the truth. It is just 2 tickets. That is not a big deal. Vin walks over to pick up Law Lair's files as if he doesn't want to continue this topic. If I recall correctly, we traced it to Law Lair through 2 different clues. At that time, we were divided into several groups, yet we almost simultaneously placed our focus on Law Lair. I recall it was... At that time, we heard from different sources that Simon Bloodworth had mentioned Law Lair to someone. Yes, we found the rights protection team through Jasmine's notes. The team said Jovi Vance was looking for someone named Law Lair. Yeah, Jovi Vance had Simon Bloodworth express the package. That's why we suspected that Bloodworth mentioned him in the video. Not only that, but Jun Cho, who helped Tyson Turner kill Simon Bloodworth, also said that he heard Simon Bloodworth mention Law Lair. Besides Simon Bloodworth, Dr. Richter also investigated Law Lair, right? Yes, I compared the data against Janice Buford's and identified a group of special subjects from Harrison Medical Center. Half of these people were received by Law Lair during their medical examinations. Based on the clues Simon Bloodworth left behind and Vin's findings at the medical center, you all started an investigation into Law Lair. Later on, you did find NXX-related research records and experimental data from Opaline River Laboratory in his home. And this, including Law Lair's own testimony, constitute important evidence for your ultimate lawsuit against Tyson Turner and the exposure of Harrison's evil deeds. NXX headquarters. Tyson Turner, one of the founders of Harrison Health Products Co. Limited, also served as the general manager of Harrison. Shortly before you started investigating the water pollution case in Opaline Village, he was admitted to the hospital due to a sudden onset of gastric cancer. Tyson Turner's illness was strange from the very beginning. The medical report from a month prior to his onset was still normal, but in the blink of an eye, he was already in the late stage of cancer. Based on the information we later obtained, the acute organ dysfunction was precisely a side effect of the NXX drug. However, as the mastermind, Tyson Turner should be more aware than anyone that there is such a drug on Harrison's production line. He would definitely be extra careful to avoid exposing himself to NXX. That's right, so we speculated that Tyson Turner's illness was caused by poisoning. The fact also proved that Tyson Turner's sudden gastric cancer was indeed due to someone tampering with his food. There are many who would like to see him dead, but the people who had the opportunity to poison him are... I remember, before Simon Whitworth, head of Harrison's materials department, disappeared, he once sent an anonymous package to someone named Jovi Vance. And this Jovi Vance happens to be from the hotel that Tyson Turner frequents. Yes, Simon Bloodworth detailed Tyson Turner's deeds in that package and attached a bottle of sample. So not only can he get his hands on NXX ingredients, he can also have access to Tyson Turner's diet. The truth that Simon mentioned in the package also contributed to his motive for killing Tyson Turner. In the end, Jovi Vance took advantage of his position and dosed Tyson Turner's diet with regulated ingredients. And thus Tyson Turner died in the end due to his own evil deeds. After falling ill, he once again started the Opaline River Laboratory to develop a special medicine for himself, but shortly after, Opaline River Laboratory was completely burned down and Harrison also completely collapsed. And Tyson Turner himself suffered another conspiracy in the hospital, ultimately dying from the very NXX drug he coveted. Of course, Tyson Turner's death is not the end of everything. You will surely continue to investigate along his death. NXX headquarters. Irene Burke, Tyson Turner's assistant. After Tyson Turner fell ill, she was responsible for most of Harrison's internal affairs. In fact, in addition to her identity as an assistant, she is also Tyson Turner's undisclosed biological daughter. You became acquainted with her through a distressing murder case, and from her, you learn more insider information about Tyson Turner. As Tyson Turner's daughter and assistant, Irene Burke discovered quite a few things about Harrison. Yeah, Opaline River Laboratories research on the immortality drug and the matters concerning the Pluto come to us from her. But beside those things about Harrison, there was a photo among the clues that Irene Burke helped us find. A photo of Vin. When Irene Burke gave you this photo, she said that Tyson Turner wanted to kill Vin. Every time you think about it, you can't help but feel a chill run down your spine. You subconsciously look at the protagonist in the photo. Vin lowers his eyes and takes a sip of tea. How could Tyson Turner possibly harm me with his limited abilities? He speaks casually as if he already knows what tricks Tyson Turner had been up to. Were you attacked during that time, Dr. Richter? I have had a few minor troubles, but they are just tricks hardly worth mentioning. Fret not, I have not been hurt. Even if Dr. Richter downplays it, Tyson Turner intended to kill him, so the situation at that time must have been more dangerous than he said. However, with Vince's abilities, Tyson Turner hasn't been able to hurt him as long as he doesn't get personally involved. Compared to how much trouble Tyson Turner could cause, the most important thing is who and for what purpose reveal your information to him. As Luke said, Tyson Turner is just a pawn, and the real danger lies in those people and forces that are still hidden behind the scenes. Anyway, even if Tyson Turner is down, we can't let our guard down. The existence of the investigation team has long been noticed by the enemy lurking in the dark. You all know that this path has already been full of dangers. But only by finding that true dawn can you, and even the whole Stellis, possibly embrace the moment of crisis resolution. Until that day comes, you will all pursue the path without wavering. NXX headquarters. Sky Harper, a nurse of Stellis Public Hospital. Driven by a misguided sense of justice, she overstepped the bounds of the law and used her position to kill two people with drugs. Pansy Boone, Gerard Boone's mother, and Tyson Turner. Let's put aside her misguided sense of justice for now. Sky Harper is just an ordinary nurse, and theoretically, she should not have access to dangerous drugs like anthrax. Yes, the appearance of illegal drugs in Stylis Public Hospital is definitely not a small matter. I remember Sky Harper saying that this drug is... It seems like Harper mentioned that someone with the name of Oedipus left her a note. She must have found this drug in the hospital following the clues on the note. In other words, Antwerp drugs had already been circulated in the public hospital through certain channels. Based on the clues later obtained, it is probable that those drugs flowed into the hospital through black market transactions, resulting in more victims. As for Oedipus, what is the connection between him and the black market drugs, and why he secretly guided all of this? Perhaps only on the day when the truth is revealed can you truly understand the cause and effect of all this. Antwerp's headquarters. Jovi Vance, head of the Green Island Hotel's catering department. On the night before Simon Bloodworth, head of Harrison Materials Department, disappeared, he sent an unusual package to Jovi Vance. The first time you contacted Jovi Vance was also to retrieve the package. No one expected that picking up a package could cause such a commotion. I also did not expect that a certain senior attorney would become my patient one day. Yeah, if we knew it was so dangerous, we should have acted together. It was an accident. To get Simon Bloodworth packaged from Jovi Vance, you and Arthur were entrusted by him to investigate a murder case involving many dark industries. It was a dangerous situation, but fortunately, everything was resolved in the end. After that, you two went through a series of twists and turns, finding Jovi Vance and the original package. The package contains Hassan's inventory records, a footage showing the existence of toxic substances in Harrison, and some ingredient samples. Back to the package. Simon Bloodworth realized he might be silenced, so he sent out these things to ask someone for help. Strangely, Jovi Vance had no previous connections with Simon Bloodworth at all. Giving such an important thing to a stranger, Bloodworth must know that Jovi Vance also cares a lot about Harrison's issues. Jovi Vance cared a lot about Harrison's issues because he was... According to Jovi Vance's account, his father used to work for Harrison and died a few years ago due to organ failure. In Jasmine Kender's notebook, the name of Jovi Vance's father is indeed on the list of employees who died abnormally. Yes, the families of those employees secretly organized a rights protection team and have been fighting against Harrison. Simon Bloodworth sent the package to Jovi Vance, presumably to seek the support of the rights protection team to protect himself and expose Harrison. Unfortunately, Tyson Turner had someone kill him before the rights protection team could take action. But I remember that apart from why Bloodworth sent the package to Jovi Vance, there is something else strange about the package. It is this particular anomaly that has given rise to doubts, leaving you trapped in a maze of mysteries. Yes, I submitted the samples received by Jovi Vance and the samples obtained from Law Lair to the testing agency, and it was found that they both contain anthrax, but they are not the same drug. The samples from Jovi Vance are more mature and effective than those developed by Opaline River Laboratory. According to Jovi Vance, the courier who delivered Simon Bloodworth's belongings told him that the drug inside is harmful to the human body. It's as if that person led Jovi Vance to poison Tyson Turner. and your intuition tells you that the career must have something to do with your investigation. Jovi Vance has been duly punished for poisoning Tyson Turner, but there are still deeper undercurrents surging in Stelis. NXX headquarters. Hassan Health Products Co. Limited, a well-known health product company with a rapidly increasing market share in recent years. However, hidden beneath this glamorous facade, it has illegally established the Opaline River Laboratory and secretly conducts research on anthrax-related drugs. And the drugs in development are being put into the product line, making many unaware consumers their subjects. Harrison's notorious track record led you to believe that uncovering its true face would bring all the truth to light. However, I didn't expect that beside Harrison, there are other people researching anthrax. After Harrison's downfall, another drug containing anthrax components circulating in the black market has caught your attention. Based on the clues you currently have, it is very likely that it comes from the Advanced Biological Research Center, Gladiolus Valley. And now it looks like Gladiolus Valley's research is far more complete than Harrison's. Anyway, Harrison's downfall has at least eliminated certain interfering elements in our investigation. Yeah, otherwise the information would be too tangled by either effervescent packets or black market drugs. But after the incident broke out, NSB established a special investigation team. They transferred partial access of the big data lab and fully took over the investigation of Harrison. Yes, and NSB also blocked the news and disguised the whole thing as a medical accident. From the perspective of controlling public opinion, I can understand this approach. But look, when will NSB completely return the access to us? We have our hands tied investigating like this. Unfortunately, I don't know much about this matter either. It's fine. Anyway, we've collected a lot of clues while investigating the cases that are still open. The Harrison incident has come to a close, and what lies before you is a much longer night. To prevent the emergence of another Harrison, to find the true mastermind, and to ensure that everyone in Stelis can peacefully embrace the true dawn. All of you will definitely keep moving forward in this dark night. NXX Headquarters. Jerome Adams, from the currently available information, is a researcher at Gladiolus Valley. The first time you met him was when you went to the Pluto to investigate the source of Harrison's anthrax. Then the Pluto exploded for unknown reasons, and preoccupied with issues concerning Law Lair and Laura Lair, you had no time to pay attention to his movements. The two of you met again at Stelis Public Hospital. Our Gladiolus Valley Research Center once established a relief fund for patients with terminal illnesses. And as a promoter, I occasionally volunteer at the hospital. I feel like this person is related to a lot of things, yet there's no direct evidence. Yeah, for example, Mavis Sutcliffe, who went missing from Lethagri's house, once stuffed a huge box of money into his house. However, the conclusion of the police investigation regarding this matter is that Jerome Adams is the victim of Mavis Sutcliffe's illegal intrusion. Mavis Sutcliffe did this out of her unilateral crush. And in the basement where Brad Reese died, we saw some discarded documents with his handwriting. But they used to be colleagues, which doesn't seem to prove anything. He does appear to be just an ordinary worker with several part-time jobs. But despite appearing to need the extra income from part-time jobs, the salary for researchers in Gladiolus Valley is definitely not low. Agree, Plus, even though he's a part-time specialist, aside from working in a convenience store, the others are mainly unpaid volunteer work. Yes, not only at the Stylist Public Hospital, but he also often goes to the White Horse Association. Everyone knows that the White Horse Association isn't as simple as it looks. Compared to his role as a researcher at Gladiolus Valley, his frequent presence at various medical institutions is more concerning. Yes, especially at the White Horse Association, it feels like he's omnipresent there. He frequented Gerard Poon's ward. I also saw him there when I went to find Jacob Yates. Sounds like a lot of things have happened at the White Horse Association. Let us go through the people related to the White Horse Association separately later. And it just so happens that I also have some information about the White Horse Association to share with everyone. In that case, let's combine Jerome Adams' file with the content related to the White Horse Association. It appears essential to closely review his file later. You note in agreement clearing a space on the dash together Jerome Adams' file along with those of other relevant people. Okay, I'll mark these files with to be reviewed later. NXX Headquarters. Tara Upton, CEO of Samara e-commerce company. Due to a wide-ranging murder case and the recent large-scale data breach incident in the company, you have learned that Samara e-commerce, under the guise of foreign trade, was actually engaged in human trafficking. According to Jacob Yates, Tara Upton's driver, Gladiolus Valley is their major customer. Well, although those buyers won't reveal their real identities to them, Jacob Yates was very certain at the time. They must have their own way of judgment to determine that the buyer who regularly purchases subjects from them is a researcher from Gladiolus Valley. According to him, this is already an unspoken secret. Tara Upton is somewhat influential in this field, but if Gladiolus Valley was really buying human bodies for experiments with the size of Samara, it's hard to support them in long run. Perhaps even Tara Upton and Jacob Yates do not know the whole story. The scale of Samara's transactions alone may not be enough to satisfy Gladiolus Valley's demand, which means maybe Tara Upton and Gladiolus Valley do indeed engage in human trafficking, but Samara is not the only seller. It's possible. There could be several parties involved in providing subjects for Gladiolus Valley, but it's unknown whether there is a larger supplier behind it or if the purchasing channels are just scattered. Anyway, if the police can really find something during the investigation in Gladiolus Valley, these problems might be solved easily. Yeah, we can only wait for the results of the investigation. Tara Upton and Jacob Yates have pleaded guilty and been sentenced, and Samara's illegal human trafficking network has also been eradicated. The two youths who went astray due to a lack of legal awareness ultimately sacrificed their misguided lives with hands stained by blood. And the sin that permeated their miserable lives could only be the tip of the iceberg of this illegal industry. This fight might be tougher and longer than expected. All you can do is to capture every moment when you discover even the slightest clue. Bit by bit, seeking the moment that will truly cause the iceberg to collapse. NXX Headquarters. Felicia Luo, the primary subject in the murder case of Bragg Reese, is the ex-wife of the deceased. But before she was arrested by the police, you noticed her threw a talisman. At that time, Harrison had just collapsed, and I took on the task of representing the families of the affected employees to help them seek justice from Harrison. One of the family members told me that anyone who got Felicia Luo's talisman will either die or get injured. According to what we saw on site, when Felicia Luo distributed the talismans, it seemed like she was selecting targets according to a certain rule. She told me in the interrogation room that this rule is... Felicia Luo said that the people she distributed the talismans are all people investigated by Bright Grease who have purchased drugs on the black market. But the list should not be in her hands. It was given to her by the mysterious person who called her and told her about Bright Grease's whereabouts. Felicia Luo said that the people she distributed the talismans were chosen by the mysterious person who called her and told her about Bright Grease's whereabouts. He determined his targets based on the black market drug purchase list. According to the mysterious person, this list was investigated by Bright Grease before his death. Felicia Luo said those cursed words to them with the intention of reminding them not to take those drugs. Yeah, the other author, Bridget Grace, suddenly got worse because she took black market drugs. She must have done this in the hope that similar tragedies will not happen again. I can understand her feelings, but why didn't she make her words clearer? In fact, most people didn't understand what she meant. Instead of stopping their intake of the drug, they held a grudge against her. Probably to avoid being too conspicuous. After all, as Brad Grease mentioned in the video, his previous attempt to expose the drugs was discovered. Felicia Luo's ex-husband, Brad Grease, was once a researcher at Gladiolus Valley Research Center, but he resigned in order to take care of their critically ill daughter. He accidentally learned about the existence of the black market drug while communicating with other patients' family members. As a former researcher, he discovered the problem with the drug, but his investigation was blocked by numerous obstacles and threats, ultimately resulting in the person who secretly threatened him must not be simple, otherwise he would not resort to suicide to achieve his goal. Unfortunately, even after going to such lengths, he still did not reveal who was behind the illegal drug manufacturing. In the video live by Brad Grease, there's another person. Grease may have made some kind of transaction with this person. Yes, this person is probably the mysterious person who contacted Felicia Luo. It is very likely that the mysterious person helped him expose black market drugs, but in return he cannot reveal the identity of the mastermind. It seems that this mysterious person shared at least some common ground with the pharmaceutical organization. Yeah, but for unknown reasons, the person wanted the drugs to disappear from the black market, just like Brad Grease. There is another problem. Brad Grease mentioned in the video that he found the ingredients of those drugs very familiar. That's right, he is a professional in this field, so he must have his reasons for making such a judgment. Brad Grease used to work at Gladiolus Valley Research Center. He found the ingredients familiar. Could he have come in contact with them at work? If that's the case, then the black market drug is very likely to be related to Gladiolus Valley. Based on the current situation, we cannot rule out this possibility. However, we need to wait for the official results of the police and NSB investigation. Brad Grease's resolution resulted in the disappearance of drugs from the black market, which is considered a partial fulfillment of his wish. But someday, that harmful drug will surely be eradicated from Sally's and from this world. Perhaps only until that day can his wish be considered completely fulfilled. NXX Headquarters. Matthew Richter, Vince's maternal uncle. After opening the file, everyone's attention is focused on Vin. Aside from family ties overseas, Vin's mother's family must also not be underestimated. However, her family prioritized literary heritage over business ventures. Even so, from any perspective, it's difficult to connect Matthew Richter with the family of literary heritage. You do not have to look at me like that. I am not interested in the foolish things he did. Yeah, I can tell. But I'm not interested. After all, this is the first time I've heard. There are surprisingly many foolish ways to use money. Maris is right. Matthew Richter's way of using money is a little revolutionary when it comes to people's understanding of money. Apart from wasting money on random investments, the most ridiculous thing he did was spending money at a pub for a so-called storytelling night. Certainly, beyond this baffling interest, what really captures your attention regarding his financial expenditures is... I remember you discovered that Matthew Richter was an investor in Gladiolus Valley. To be more specific, the biggest investor. Alright, besides Gladiolus Valley, he seems to also have a hand in the White Horse Association. If it weren't for the fact that the Richter family is not interested in such matters, I would have thought that they are gearing up to compete with Pax Pharmaceutical. Since we know it is his personal behavior, let us focus on the main topic. Vin timely expresses a protest against overgeneralizing the individual behaviors of others. Artem, who has been silent all this time, just finishes reading this not so long file and shifts the topic back to Gladiolus Valley. Since Matthew Richter is related to Gladiolus Valley, the reason behind his kidnapping of Sharara at the secret auction is also tied to matters of Gladiolus Valley. Yeah, he asked me what I found in the basement where Brad Grace died, and he also asked why Brad Grace was murdered. Brad Grace used to be a Gladiolus Valley researcher. He mentioned that the black market drugs composition looked familiar. As an investor in Gladiolus Valley, it's abnormal that Matthew Richter is concerned about Brad Grace's death. It is indeed suspicious, but in that case, Matthew Richter's behavior is almost like giving us an answer. Yeah, there really isn't any. I believe that at least back then, there was nothing suspicious about this matter. Probably unable to stand our overestimation of Matthew Richter, Vin feels compelled to interject despite appearing disinterested in the conversation. After all, it was his doing, so it is not surprising. That's true. Although Matthew Richter is clearly of some importance in this case, from the few interactions you have had, the logic behind his behavior is sometimes simply to do as he pleases. Forget it, I don't see any valuable information on this person for now. Let's check the next one. You look at the photo in the file again, recalling every scenario where you met him. You nod and close the file. NXX headquarters. Gladiolus Valley Research Center, an advanced biological research center, has won multiple international awards in the field of biopharmaceutical research. But considering what you've gathered, there are doubts about the innocence of this research center. In the case of Finn Jackson, Jacob Yates confessed that Samara e-commerce was actually engaged in human trafficking. And according to Jacob Yates, Gladiolus Valley is their long-term buyer and regularly purchases subjects from them. Although these are merely Jacob Yates' claims, the police at least have a reason to investigate Gladiolus Valley. Yeah, NSB will also initiate an official investigation into Gladiolus Valley. However, the news has reported that there will be a routine inspection of Gladys Valley by the officials. If Gladys Valley is really involved in these illegal industries, I'm afraid that an open investigation like this will not yield any results. The officials have already released the news, so if there is really evidence still left in Gladys Valley, they will definitely find a way to transfer it. Anyway, it'd be nice to disrupt their shadow via investigation. Once they start to panic, there will always be some clues left behind. Hopefully, this investigation into Gladys Valley can put an end to the illegal drug incidents that have plagued Salis over the years. NXX headquarters. Arcus Mallory, originally named Quinn Mallory, lived in the Seahorse Association when he was young. He was abandoned by his parents due to a congenital illness and went homeless before being adopted by a senior member of the Seahorse Association. Since then, he has regarded the Seahorse Association as his own home. After the dissolution of the Seahorse Association, he has been constantly investigating the bizarre suicides of the senior members. With limited background and connections, Arcus Mallory seems to have found nothing until recently. He didn't include the investigation process in his diary. Instead, he directly listed the names of revenge targets, as if he had suddenly gotten the truth overnight. After that, the mysterious serial disappearances case turned into a serial murder case with a solid evidence. Not only did he suddenly learn the truth, do you remember that he wanted to buy explosives from the black market, but no one dared to sell him? But later on, he managed to buy so many explosives and even hired enforcers on the black market. Clearly, someone is helping him from behind. Someone must be helping Arcus Mallory with all this. That person might be. During the bomb disposal, he mentioned that there was a mentor helping him. His plan to set up bombs at the Seahorse Association was also suggested by this mentor. The place where Arcus Mallory met this so-called mentor was the White Horse Association. Why does Dr. Richard Jones sound like he's not reasoning but rather very certain? Do you already have a speculation about this person's identity? Is that how Mr. Wing feels too? Looks like I wasn't overthinking it. It is not just a speculation, it can basically be confirmed. Vince's gaze falls on several Ridley 2 documents next to you and he thinks for a moment. But I still cannot be sure if they just happened to meet at the White Horse Association or the White Horse Association itself is also involved. It is better to discuss it after when we sort out the White Horse Association files. Okay, let's check other files. You close Arcus Mallory's file and put it together with the pile of documents that Vin had just been looking at. Hopefully, after figuring out what he's been through at the White Horse Association, you can truly know the intentions of the person behind him. NXX headquarters. Hank Barnes, both parents deceased, was once a victim of the Seahorse Association. After his sister passed away due to the delayed treatment caused by the so-called miracle drug from the Seahorse Association, he, along with several other victims, injected drugs into Seahorse Association's senior members, causing them to hang themselves in a bizarre manner one after another. The syringe left by Hank Barnes still contains residue of that drug. Had someone test it, it contains NXX, which is also found in drugs circulating on the black market. But then, Hank Barnes was still a child, and his social connections were all confined within the Seahorse Association. Logically, he should not have any access to drugs containing anthrax. Yeah, someone must have given him the drug on purpose. Hank Barnes also confessed during the interrogation that a mysterious person had given him these drugs and instructed him to do all of this. The hallucinogenic ingredients in the drug were exactly what led those senior members to hang themselves. Unfortunately, the person who gave drugs to Hank Barnes was completely unrecognizable because he wrapped himself up from head to toe. We might have to rely on the nearby surveillance equipment, but it happened 10 years ago. This is going to be tough. Indeed, a long time has passed. It was a surprise that the illegal circulation of NXX drugs started 10 years ago. Yeah, if we had started the investigation back then, maybe the whole thing wouldn't have turned out like this. In that case, Luke would also not. NSB has reopened the investigation into the Seahorse Association incident. All the case files have been unsealed. I believe that we can find new clues from them. Yes, I hope the investigation of NSB goes smoothly. NXX headquarters. Gerard Boone, a teen who has been missing after escaping from Sally's third juvenile correctional facility. However, 1 year after his disappearance, he reappeared as the person who reported the self-immolation case linked to an illegal drug organization. A quirky kid. Maris looks at the photo in the file for a moment, adjusting his posture, and comes to this conclusion. Describing a kind and brave teen in this way may seem strange, but it is very fitting. Gerard Boone doesn't seem to trust us adults so much, but when investigating the case of Ramus Kane, he has been quietly supporting us quite a lot. Who knows what he is thinking? These kid's thoughts are too complicated. Judging by the message he left stating that he purposefully took illegal drugs to get close to someone, he must have many plans hidden within him, known solely to himself. His physician on illegal drug cases suggests that his plan is likely related to what we're investigating. At Gerard Boone's age, he shouldn't be exposed to such dangerous things, yet he is so fixated on it. What happened to his family in the past appears to have deeply affected him. Gerard Boone's family is intricately connected to these matters because his family members... When we went to Gerard Boone's house to investigate, we found a notebook called Karma Book. Judging by the contents, his family had joined a pyramid scheme and donated a lot of money. This is the so-called Patient Mutual Aid organization that his mother once participated in. That's right, based on the information I gathered from the black market, the organization that Gerard Boone's family joined was the Seahorse Association. His family wouldn't have gone bankrupt if they hadn't joined the Seahorse Association. Maybe his mother wouldn't have changed and Gerard Boone wouldn't have had to go this far. His mother, Pansy Boone, upset Sky Harper due to the excessive control over her son, ultimately leading to her tragic death. The loss of his mother, a sorrowful event by all means, could be considered a relief for Gerard Boone. His troubled past caused him to push himself into one abyss after another. Even now, he is still confined in the ward of the White Horse Association. The photo on the file overlaps with his face asleep on the hospital bed. You sign and put his file among those of the White Horse Association members. Is joining the White Horse Association part of your plan? Gerard Boone, what are you up to? NXX headquarters. Ithagri, a girl who died in her own home due to taking pesticide without being treated in time. However, rather than calling it a home, that place could only be described as an old and eerie building. Ithagri's family are all chosen and adopted by herself. But due to encephalitis, she lost her memory and started seeing them as her father, mother, and granny. Granny. What kind of granny would give her granddaughter such a deadly drug? Investigating this murder case has proven difficult due to the intricate relationships in Lethagri's family. But the truth is simple and saddening. The one who poisoned Lethagri's tea with pesticide turned out to be her adopted granny, Jill Meadows. To Jill Meadows, her most important grandchild is her grandson, Billy Chant. Once in the same high school with Lethagri, Billy Chan often bullied the weak for fun. After being caught by Lethagri, he eventually jumped to his death. Jill Meadows had a crush against Lethagri, clearly because of her grandson. Yes, someone here truly experienced how much she valued this grandson. In order to confirm Jill Meadows' suspicion, Vin once used himself as bait and drank the herbal tea poisoned by Jill Meadows. Luckily, Vin received a timely drastic lavage, preventing further harm to his health from that reckless behavior. We should include an additional principle in our investigation team. Think twice before you drink your tea. With the teacup almost at his lips, Vin pauses and sighs. He falters for a moment, lowers his head to take a sip, and then puts the teacup back, concluding this topic with the clink of the cup being placed atop the tea bowl. In addition to these family members, Lithagri also mentioned in the note that there was a strange gaze in her home. Of course, considering her symptoms of amnesia, she might not actually recognize the person who was gazing at her. Later, her house caught fire and exposed an illegally built basement which did show traces of someone living there. Obviously, someone else lived in Lethagri's house during that time. I remember the police have already investigated and found that the person living in the basement is Jorabun, right? Yes, Jill Meadows and the rest don't know about the existence of the basements. Jorabun must have been taken in by Lithagri before she lost her memory. This also explains why Jorabun disappeared for over a year without being captured by any cameras. Now that Lithagri is no longer alive and Jorabun is in a coma, how they met remains unknown. But at least one thing can be certain. Jorabun must have had familiar feelings for Lithagri, given the time he spent living with her. Because of this, after Lithagri's death, Jorabun chose to stop hiding and start his fight. Yes, he seemed to react upon seeing the locust tree from Lithagri's place in the news. Unfortunately, he fell into a coma after taking the drug before he could see anything. It's the locust tree again. Speaking of locust tree, it reminds you of another place where a locust tree is also present. Later in the Weeping Tower, which is related to a series of missing cases, we also saw a painting of locust trees. And that Weeping Tower used to be the stronghold of the Seahorse Association. However, the evidence at Lethagri's house has been destroyed by fire, and the police haven't found anything unusual. Could it be a coincidence? Or is there something between Lethagri's family and the Seahorse Association? You find it hard to associate the child who is striving to build a home for herself with that organization. But throughout the entire time, you have no idea about the identity of Lethagri's birth parents or their whereabouts. Based on the clues we have so far, there shouldn't be any connections between them. You're right. Maybe we'll find something new in the future. Let's put this aside for now and check the next file. NXX headquarters. The Seahorse Association, a pyramid scheme that distributes placebos to its members based on donation amount as criterion, causing many people to go bankrupt. 10 years ago, due to the collective suicide of the senior members, the Seahorse Association disbanded, and the organization's large sum of illegal money also disappeared. Collective suicide of the senior members. Such a bizarre case was surprisingly left unresolved. Halfway through the investigation, the case was taken over by the NSB and all the files left in the police station were sealed off. If each warrant for this serial disappearance case, those files wouldn't have been reopened. Perhaps it would be more appropriate to call this serial disappearance case as a serial murder case. The bodies of the three missing persons who had fallen victim to the Seahorse Association were found in the underground warehouse of the Seahorse Association. The large sum of money that disappeared was also kept there in cash. During your investigation, you discovered that the bizarre suicides of the Seahorse Association senior members 10 years ago may be related to the NXX truck. The NSB has reopened the investigation into that case, and I've been supporting it recently. If there are any conclusions, I will keep you updated with the permitted scope. Although Luke has the authorization to investigate, given his special identity, he cannot share too much information with the team. No one in the investigation team has objections to this either. We'll leave the Seahorse Association related matters to you then. Okay, let us continue. NXX headquarters. You pull out the files related to Matthew Richter again because of his identity as a sponsor of the White Horse Association. Vin, is your uncle's hobby spending money? Based on what you know about Matthew Richter, he invests in almost everything. His investments, however, can hardly be described as clean or legitimate. Our family members generally do not have this hobby. As for him, as if he is mentally prepared to be mentioned, Vin calmly ignores the way Luke addresses Matthew Richter. Weird hobby and poor vision. Only a nephew like you could give such a sharp remark. Let's disregard whether he actively participated in the dealings between Gladiolus Valley and White Horse Association or passively played the role of a fool first. The investments he chose are really not promising. Moreover, he's become obsessed with charity film screenings recently. Hey, didn't you guys go and watch it? How was the movie he chose? Did it meet your expectation? Maris looks at you as if he is just chatting, but it's also as if he is trying to confirm with you as someone who might know if there was anything unusual at the film screening that day. That day, I was so focused on the note Professor Hume left for Mr. Wing that I can't remember anything about the movie. But before Artem organizes his words to explain to everyone, it is not appropriate to directly mention the matter of discovering Neil Hume's clues. I can only see that it's not surprising at all. Perhaps noticing your unease or choosing not to discuss the topic for now, Artem gives you a concise comment on that movie. His taste is not suitable for organizing any film screening, and this does not seem to match his interest either. He probably did this for another purpose. When people involved in illegal industries suddenly start doing charity, it's very likely that they are laundering money. Since he said he is ready to go abroad and enjoy himself, this matter should already be settled in his mind. It's unclear what exactly he was involved in before he started money laundering to cover his tracks. Anyway, he shouldn't be a real core figure. Since he believes he has cleaned up his acts, it's likely that nothing will be found on him. Although, based on my understanding of him, he would not notice even if the person who helped him secretly left some evidence. But we really do not need to waste any time on him. Yes, as long as the forces behind him fall, everything he did will be exposed. Let's take a look at other files. NXX headquarters. When you take out Orcus Mallory's file again, everyone looks at Vin. Who is the basically confirmed person you mentioned? After the Seahorse Association was disbanded, Orcus Mallory spent nearly a decade investigating the suicide of the senior members, but it was all in vain. However, after being taken in by the White Horse Association due to severe illness, he suddenly learned the truth about the past and completed his revenge. According to previous speculation, he should have met a mentor who helped him plan this revenge during his stay at the White Horse Association. And Vince seems to have a very clear guess about the identity of this mentor. Matthew Richter. It was him? Vin doesn't keep you in suspense. Instead, he directly mentions the name. It makes sense that Matthew Richter, who often appears in the White Horse Association, is the one who helped Orcus Mallory seek revenge. That sounds like something he would do, but why are you so certain? Not long after you returned from Weeping Tower, I actually asked Matthew Richter about it in person. Did he admit it? Matthew Richter's residence. Do you have proof? I suppose not. After all, my only interactions with Orcus Murray were a couple of conversations at the White Horse Association. He confided in me about his misery, and I felt sorry for him, so I offered him some advice from the perspective of an elder. It is truly almost like an admission from his own mouth. After hearing Vince's account, you realize that Matthew Richter's thoughts are sometimes so straightforward that you find it hard to understand. He doesn't care to let us know because we don't have any evidence. Yes, even if we report exactly what he said to the police, this alone wouldn't be enough to convict him. Judging from this, the person who helped Orcus Murray purchase the explosives and provide the NXX drug for revenge should also be Matthew Richter. But I remember the police found that Orcus Murray's body also contained NXX. Yes, and the ingredients are similar to those of the black market drug. But Captain Morgan said he could confirm that the drug he took did not come from the black market. Since Matthew Richter thought him revenge, he should also be the one who gave him the drug he took. Similar ingredients, but not directly from the black market. Matthew Richter is indeed in contact with the organization that develops black market drugs. And the organizations he had the most contact with are the White Horse Association and Gladiolus Valley. The drug Matthew Richter gave Orcus Murray is also an important piece of evidence of Gladiolus Valley's guilt. Unfortunately, Orcus Murray could not be a witness because he has already died due to severe side effects. If it weren't for this drug, Orcus Murray would have lived for a while longer. Besides, if he hadn't met Matthew Richter, he probably wouldn't have turned into a murderous teen with the blood of 4 lives. Even though he treated the Seahorse Association as his home, he remains a good-natured person who, despite seeking revenge, is unwilling to harm the innocent. He confided in others with his hatred, perhaps hoping for someone to guide him toward the light. If the person he met wasn't Matthew Richter, no matter what, Orcus hands are already stained with blood, and the NXX injected into his body has forever robbed him of the chance to atone. May the day come when the deeply rooted dark forces behind the scenes are completely eradicated. A tragedy like this, which has entangled a poor person's entire life, will never happen again. NXX Headquarters. You open the files related to Jerome Adams again. The information about this person becomes even more confusing. Especially after Jacob Yates mentioned that the White Horse Association is indeed related to Gladiolus Valley. This Gladiolus Valley's researcher who appears in the White Horse Association every day seems increasingly suspicious. Every time we go to the White Horse Association, he seems to always be there. If it weren't for the Gladiolus Valley logo on his clothes, I would have mistaken him for a volunteer at the White Horse Association. Yes, as a researcher, he is always not in the laboratory but running around all day. Fortunately, he is not an employee of Pax Pharmaceutical. Although exploiting workers is wrong, you should feel fortunate that Jerome Adams is not a Pax employee. Hey Vin, haven't you often been to the White Horse Association lately? How does it feel to work with him? Honestly speaking, he is very dedicated and professional when it comes to nursing patients. He is highly praised by the patients of the White Horse Association. In their eyes, he is an optimistic, positive, and gentle person. And in your eyes? In my opinion, his care for patients is not fake, or rather, it is incredibly real. He seems to have a pathological compassion for the sick. A pathological compassion. Luke murmurs in a low voice, not knowing what he is reminded of by this characteristic. Luke, what is it? Huh? Oh, nothing. It just reminded me of someone with a similar characteristic. Speaking of Jerome Adams, although I haven't had much direct contact with him, based on your descriptions, he is present in many places. Yeah, I've lost count how many times we've seen him. I wonder how many things he has done in places we haven't seen, and how he is related to those incidents that have happened previously. In your search for clues on NXX, you've been met with various unanswered questions. Who is the person who has been guiding all of you to investigate Harrison since the beginning? Who gave the drugs to Jovi Vance and Sky Harper and incited them to poison Tyson Turner? Who took Gerard Boone away from the correctional facility, and who had Brett Grace film the video? Who activated the Opaline River Laboratories self-destruct device? Who caused the Pluto's explosion? However, no matter how many speculations you have, Jerome Adams' performance has been flawless so far. Although many things can almost be confirmed, it seems like there is no evidence. If he really did it, there will definitely be traces left behind. Right, let's keep a closer eye on him from now on. You believe that as long as you continue investigating in this direction, what Jerome Adams has done and what role he has played can be figured out. When everything is over, the evildoers shall pay the price for what they have done. NXX Headquarters. Gerard Boone's parents were once members of the Seahorse Association. During that period, their family went bankrupt due to bottomless donations. Afterward, his father died and his mother was killed by the nurse Sky Harper due to her pathological control over her son. Gerard Boone injured Sky Harper because she didn't take good care of his mother, and as a result, he was sent to Stanley 3rd Juvenile Correctional Facility. but he escaped from the correctional facility shortly after. According to his roommate, he left with a very gentle person. And for a year, he was taken in by Lithagri and lived in the basement of her house until she had an accident and the house was burned down. For some reason, he returned to the courier station near his hometown and unexpectedly witnessed a self-immolation case. Then he re-emerged as the person who reported the case. Gerard Boone has been through so much at such a young age. I couldn't agree more, and his mind is not as simple as a child of his age. Yeah, when we were investigating Remaskin's self-immolation case, he was the one who guided us to find many clues. I recall you had discovered a memo on his phone and from his to-do list. He was indeed guiding you to search for clues, and at the same time, he was using you to complete his plan. According to the to-do list, Gerard Boone guided all of you to investigate and approach Roman Keane to get the illegal drugs. Then, as if trying to get clues to someone, he swallowed the drug and fell unconscious shortly after. After his illness got worse, he was transferred to the White Horse Association for treatment and is still living there. I went to see him recently. The doctors and nurses there said his condition has improved, but he still remains unconscious. The damage on him caused by the illegal drug is considerable, yet he didn't hesitate to pay the price of self-harm. Was he trying to get closer to... Shortly after the incident, he was transferred to the White Horse Institution. Maybe his target is there. That's possible. After all, it is not a secret that the White Horse Association has been treating critically ill patients. However, what is Gerard Boone's ultimate motive for doing this? I'm afraid we'll have to wait until he wakes up. I guess so. It's unknown when that youth will wake up, nor what he plans to do next after waking up. No matter what, may the final result of this kind-hearted youth be a truly good ending. NXX headquarters. Jacob Yates, employee of Samara e-commerce and Tara Upton's driver. Many years ago, he and Tara Upton, both lacking legal awareness, fell into crime and became entangled in human trafficking. During the investigation of the Finn Jackson murder case, you discovered that Jacob Yates had been receiving ear treatment at the White Horse Association affiliated hospital for a long time. According to Jacob Yates, Tara Upton has provided Samara employees with additional medical insurance from a White Horse Association affiliated hospital. It is evident that there is a close connection between Samara e-commerce and the White Horse Association. Samara e-commerce is closely connected to the White Horse Association because I have to say, the first time I heard about Samara's employee benefit, I was really shocked. Long annual leave, paid sick leave, and additional medical insurance from a high-end private hospital. Gentlemen, shouldn't you learn from this example when formulating employee benefits? Look at me, Pax's benefits are far ahead. Instead, you should pay attention to the mental health of employees at a certain psychological research center and a certain law firm. I think the work arrangements at our research center are already very reasonable, so there is no need to worry. Actually, I told Celestine about it back then. Don't worry, the new annual leave system is already being formulated. Huh? Artem's serious tone makes you feel like he's making a promise to you as a Tammy's business partner. Mr. Wing did mention it that day, but wasn't he joking? In fact, to be fair, Tammy's law firm is already doing quite well in this aspect. Although you did feel somewhat envious when Jacob Yates mentioned it, there's no need to learn from Samara. After all, their good benefits are not real. Tara often gives these benefits to employees, not essentially to improve their well-being. Samara e-commerce is closely connected to the White Horse Association because the actual business of Samara e-commerce is human trafficking, and according to Jacob Yates, Gladiolus Valley is their major buyer and requires all buying and selling funds to be processed through the White Horse Association. Tara Upton often participates in charity events organized by the White Horse Association, which is actually a way for her to transact with Gladiolus Valley. Yes, using charity for money laundering is not uncommon in this illegal industry. Due to Jacob Yates' testimony, the police have decided to officially initiate an investigation into the White Horse Association and Gladiolus Valley. Of course, perhaps Jacob Yates only knows facts that certain people deliberately let him know, or rather intentionally make him believe. But regardless, this small clue is enough to reveal that these two places are definitely not clean. As for the rest, just wait for the results of the investigation by the police and SP. And towards headquarters. White Horse Association, a well-regarded medical charity organization, has collaborative relationships with many hospitals in Dallas. This organization has been receiving and funding patients with severe illnesses, and many patients have been transferred from other medical institutions. A good example is Gerard Boone. When Gerard Boone was transferred to the White Horse Association, I checked the information when I helped him with the procedures. The facilities and professionalism are the best in the industry, and the patients have high reviews of this place. Yes, I have also hired a background check company to investigate, and on the surface, it doesn't appear suspicious. There is no problem on the surface, but what about behind? Luke flips through everyone's notes at the bottom of the file and looks at the two people who have been investigating the White Horse Association. So far, there is no concrete evidence, but to my knowledge, the White Horse Association has been trying to intervene in Sky Harper's case. Besides Sky Harper's case, their hands should also have also reached into Letha Gray's case. But the White Horse Association has left no clues behind. Based on the documents I have found, their acts can be described as flawless. The person who helps them handle these matters should be well versed in law. Vin leans against the chair back and quietly glances at Artem, who is staring at the logo of the White Horse Association. Even if there is Jacob Yates' testimony, the White Horse Association is still not guilty according to the information it presented. Jacob Yates stated that there were people in Gladiolus Valley involved in human trafficking through the White Horse Association, but after all, that was just his one-sided testimony. If the police and NSP cannot find more direct evidence this time, it will still escape justice. Now that Jacob Yates and Tara Upton have been arrested, the White Horse Association must have been tipped off, and if there's any evidence, they might have already started to transfer it. If we miss this chance, it will probably be more difficult to gather evidence in future. Maris lowers his head as if he's contemplating something. Do you have a plan in mind? Yes, before the police investigation begins, I want to try gathering some information indirectly. Just a reminder, do not interfere with NSP's investigation. Don't worry, I have my own plan. Maris nods and turns to look at you. Miss, let's visit Gerard Boone in a couple of days. Okay, I happen to want to check up on his condition as well. After Gerard Boone was transferred to the White Horse Association, you and Maris often find time to visit him. Is he trying to use the visit to gather information from the White Horse Association? I'll ask him about the specific plan later. You hope that this time both your investigation and the official investigation can go smoothly.